We were having conversations last night about how many of you remember when it used to snow at the GAC? Does anybody remember this? Okay. It's become the game of, do you know how I know you're old? You remember when it was snowing? Well, the second one is, you know how I know you're old? Do you remember them being 10,000 credit unions? Right? Yeah, or even higher than that. So we have saved the best for last when it comes to our panels here, and I'd like to bring up the last panel. Some dear friends of mine. Let's welcome them to the stage. First, Cynthia Campbell from Balance. Not only a speaker, but a volunteer in making all of this happen. Thank you, Cynthia. Maria Martinez from Border Federal Credit Union. Lois Kitsch from See You Difference. Lois is in the house. And Mr. George Ombado from ACCOSCA.
Still morning, right? Good morning, everybody. Well, yes, we saved the best for last. And, we're talking about spinning and the kaleidoscope and how are we going to spin that. One thing is when you spin those kaleidoscopes, everything looks so nice, looks beautiful. And you spin it again, and it changes. So everything is about changing or spinning. How many of you have been to a rave? Probably not. Right? Probably not. But your kids have, right? But your kids have, right? And I did go to one, okay? But it's all about color, right? If you go, it's all about lights, it's all about colors. And I think the young professionals and the young adults, they go because they like that. They see a different perspective, and they love it. And you may want to try it one of these days, okay? But so in my community, one of the things that we do is we serve the underserved. And in order for us to do that, we need to look at the positive side of things, because many of the things we're seeing in our community are not positive. They're very negative. And how do we turn that around? I live in a border town. Many of you may have the same situation. There's things that happen in a border town that you may not see it in the cities. But how do we turn those things around? And I think this is where this panel comes in. How do we spin that? How do we tell a story? How do we spin a reality and tell the story to make sure that we turn and create awareness? How do we create awareness and make sure that we're saying it in a positive way, or that we're turning it into a positive way? And I know Lois, you have done amazing, serving the industry. And you've been through a lot. All three of you have been through a lot. So, let's start the conversation. How do we turn things around in a positive way? And maybe some of your experiences.
So I'm in the first chair, I guess I'll go first. So I have listened this morning with such interest to all of the panelists and what everyone brings unique perspectives on this thing called credit unions. Some of us have a global perspective on credit unions, and I've done a lot of work through the years working with credit unions in really dire circumstances. So what I will say is, in America today, our world is changing. And our world is changing because, yes, we want this to be positive, but we also have to be aware of what consumers, our members, are actually facing. And I think I said this to you last year, but I will say it again, is development issues are global. So I spent many years working in Asia and the Philippines, and I saw development issues everywhere. And then I came back to America and went, holy shit, they're here too. Hunger, 1 in 7 Americans is food insecure, and these statistics are before COVID. 49% of Americans don't have $400 in a savings account to actually address an emergency. People sleep on the street in big cities around the world because they don't have access to affordable housing. So when you think about that, do credit unions have any role in this? So if you start to come from a place in your credit union that you're coming from, we need to do this because it generates revenue for us. I think it was Heather that said it so well. Then you're missing the opportunity to build your business based on doing the right thing. So, what are we doing to solve climate issues? Is that a role for credit unions? I hope so. What are we doing? You know, we talk about our first and foremost thing we do in credit unions is provide access to affordable financial services. Loans that members need, but loans that are productive in nature that helps members actually grow their financial awareness, not bring down awareness. By the way, this whole conversation around overdraft protection, we were talking about that 20 years ago, and we are still in this room talking about it. You know, I said to an old friend of mine, Harriet May, she's not here, but I said, you are making the bottom line in your credit union by encouraging irresponsible behavior of your members. And she said to me, now you make me feel really bad. And it's, yes, there is a place for overdraft protection. But 20 years later, we're still having this conversation about credit unions that make their bottom line by oftentimes offering a product that's maybe not good for members, or maybe the way it's offered is not good for members. So we talk about climate, we talk about access to financial services, we think about hunger. Is there a place in credit unions to understand hunger and housing? Should we have a role in solving these issues? So I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to come back in a minute to say there's small ways that we can make a difference. But George and I are colleagues. We spend a lot of time. I spend about 80% of I'm retired. I am very bad at it. I spend about 80% of my time as a volunteer on the African continent, really helping instill solid business practices for credit unions, but also understanding the value of living and working our mission. So if you look at the development issues we have in America, it's minute compared to the development issues that many countries on the African continent are facing. So I'm going to turn this to George and say, what does change mean for Africa?
So maybe first let's say thank you for being part of this conversation. If I have an opportunity to turn the wheel and look at the different shapes in the continent of Africa, continent of 1.3 billion people, 54 countries, young, a median age of 18. The first screen that I'll see a beautiful continent, blessed people, blessed just like in America. But I also see challenges, climate affecting us in many ways. I'll see a continent that the women might not be getting as equal opportunity like men. I'll see a continent where the young people that we are median age of 18 are not given opportunity to do what they're meant to do. But if I also look at the other side and turn the wheel in United States of America, and I'll see a beautiful country, the land that is said a land of opportunity. But the first lens I'll see on our end, we talk about women don't get opportunity. But I'll also see in America, I don't see the black people, for instance, getting more opportunity. When you go into places, you get less of people who look like me in opportunity. Yes, America is a land of opportunity. I'll see America where there is hope, but at times we don't realize that we are blessed. You have so much within your space, and you forget that what you have, you're a billion plus people, but you're blessed. Part of the world, people struggle to get 3 meals in a day. But in your end, you might be having meals, but I know the other people do not have meals, but they're living in this particular continent. So I'll say I will look at this in different lenses. We face challenges to do with economic changes. We live in a continent whereby in one point, a country has an inflation of 5%. In 18 months, the inflation has gone to double digit, 54%. How do credit unions survive in that environment? While I know in your environment, if inflation goes to double digit, it becomes a crisis in a way. I also live in a continent where unemployment rate of 30% is not so bad. We've made it common or normal, but it should not be normal. So we have a role as a credit union to support that particular space. So those are the lenses that I'll look at.
So, Cynthia, how do you see this, and what are some of the issues that you're dealing with? I know I was going to mention something that Lois said. You know, in the years that I've been the CEO at the credit union, one of the things that I do is we create a business plan, and then after that business plan, we create a budget. And I can tell you that that budget is created on the things that you're going to do in your community. You know, if you're really doing your job within our industry, you have to turn around those things. And even though you may not come up with the best bottom line, the products and services that you're offering to your community is what's going to make the difference. And I can assure you that my bottom line when I create my budget, because I want to do all these projects, does not reflect what we end up at the end of the year, because we end up better. Because the programs are bringing in you more people. So, Cynthia, what are you dealing with?
Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to say I can't believe I'm sitting on a panel next to Lois. Well, I'm not next to her, but I'm kind of next to her. I've looked up to Lois my whole career, and it's 19 years this year for me in credit union space. I love you all. But when I looked at the word kaleidoscope, if you know me, I'm kind of a heady person. So, of course, I had to look at where did this word come from and what does it really mean, right? And so I won't, bore you with my Greek, but basically it's from 3 words: beauty, and that which is seen, and to examine. And so the observation of beautiful forms is really what it means, this kaleidoscope, right? Looking at these beautiful forms. But you can't work a kaleidoscope without light. Yeah. You are the light in this world, right? And so this kaleidoscope, as we're turning it, and I've looked at this industry for 19 years, I've had a pretty singular view of this. I've always been for the financial capability of our members. Every job I've had in the last 20 years has a dotted line back to that. And then that's what I'm here to tell you about today, that there's so many of our balanced partners in this room, and I'm so grateful for you. And being in this space for 19 years, what I think we can turn the lens on, Maria, is we've come from having just like a single financial counselor in our marketing department because we wanted one and we wanted to have that and we believe in that, right? And then fast forward 19 years, what I see is financial capability getting weaved in through your credit union. It's in the inbound when you're talking to a member. It's with your employees as you're onboarding them. It's in your collections processes. It's in your lending when you can't say yes. We're going to say yes eventually. This is how. Go get some financial counseling. Raise that credit score. And so when I look at that kaleidoscope and I see the beautiful forms of financial capability in this industry, you guys just keep going. And how do you measure that? Like really measure it. It's not butts and seats at workshops, right? We got to do better than that. That's a good start. Please count that still. Report it to the people you do, but let's use systems. We have data. I heard all these people talking about data today. Let's get that financial education in there. Let's measure increase in income, decrease in debt, increase in credit score. Let's really measure that for real, not just workshops and, oh yes, this financial counselor helped 20 people this week, but how? What changed in their life? Let's put financial capability in the hierarchy under an EVP, not under a director of marketing. And no offense to directors of marketing, that's not what I mean. The further up on the hierarchy it goes, the better we can change the kaleidoscope. So that's where I'm coming from.
Agreed.
Is there passion here or what? Lois, I know you had other comments that you wanted to come back, Lois.
So I just want to also comment with what Cynthia talked about as well, because it is about the people. And it is about the people that sit in the seats in this room, because we do have the capability of making big change. And big change might be just one person. I made big change for one person. Or it might be I made big change for a continent. And that's what we're talking about here. I love the whole, I love balance and the idea behind balance, because oftentimes we talk about financial education, but having information does not change the way people manage their money. Let's be honest with this. What actually changes the way people manage their money is behavior. And that comes from what balance does. That's come from sitting across a desk from someone and understanding the value of having a conversation with someone, and that you're making a long-term investment in people. So for me, building the financial capability that Cynthia was talking about takes education, it takes behavior change, and it takes the right products and services. All which credit unions have the capability to do. So for me, if we build relationships with the people we're meant to serve, every one of us, then it becomes about, I've been a member of Summit Credit Union for 25 years. And I am the most loyal. I talk my credit union all of the time. But I do it because what I need from them, I get from them. But what really happens is when I really needed them in 2008, yeah, I had the house I couldn't afford in 2008 that went from $460,000 in value to $280,000. And I panicked. What did I do? I sold the dang thing. And I paid on that house for 10 years after I'd no longer lived in it. 2 weeks after I sold that house, Summit gave me a mortgage. Now that's unheard of, right? But they gave me a mortgage. Brad says no. In a lot of credit unions, it would be. But they gave me a mortgage because I had a relationship with that credit union, and they trusted me. So we've talked a lot about this morning, about this whole thing called trust. Trust comes from relationships. It comes, I don't ever walk into a branch of my credit union. I live in Florida, it's in Wisconsin. But I trust them. And no, I don't go to a chat box to talk to them. That is not my thing. But when I go there, I get the service that I need. George.
So in the morning we began this session, Gary mentioned the issue around climbing the mountain. When you climb the mountain, normally you do it at a very slow pace because of the oxygen level you need to climatize.
Poli.
We call it poli in Swahili. Mm-hmm. In life, we all have an opportunity to change in one form or the other, to support people within our space. In the continent, we believe, the way we work with Lois, it's important to find in your own heart to change one person at any given point that you can. Credit unions have the power to change communities by just changing one particular member. You are climbing the mountain in America with the challenges that have been addressed today, including trust. But in Africa, we are also climbing the mountain in many ways. I'll give an example. We have a board meeting or strategic planning session for a certain country, for the teachers, the biggest teachers credit union in this country. And for the ladies in the board, when they want to give a comment, in the strategic plan session, they write it down and pass it to a gentleman to read the comment in the 21st century.
I about had a heart attack.
And again, that is on gender. So we are climbing the mountain in Africa on that part. But I also feel saddened, by the way, if I come to America and I see a meeting, and I'm glad, for me, the meeting that has probably an audience that is more diverse, more inclusive, since I started coming to America, is the underground meetings. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the relationships we build, I'm going to pull a couple of plugs here. You know that in the years that I've been in this as a CEO, I've also built a lot of relationships, many with each of you here. And some of those things, ideas came out of those. And some of those ideas were to build new organizations. We built the Credit Union Women's Leadership Alliance. We built the National Association of Latino Credit Unions and Professionals. You know, those are the things that each of you need to be doing out there, because there's no way you can get the word across just by staying in your office. You have to get out. You have to build that trust in others, but also those people need to trust you back.
And I have a comment to that, but Cynthia, I don't want to leave you out here. So really quickly, in Africa, we're working on a women's program called Women in Leadership. Because oftentimes we think that we need mentorship programs for women. And that's great. Mentorship programs to bring women up is a really great thing. But we also have women that are already in leadership in Africa. We just need to have them find a bigger seat at the table.
Excellent.
We need to build their skill level not in what they do every day. They run credit unions. It's to help them be able to articulate that voice in a way that says to others, and gentlemen, I will say to you, it's not often you holding them back. Oftentimes it's other women. So we ladies, that's true. We ladies, we have to work on this. We have to also bring women along with us. And this may be more true in Africa than it is here, I'm not sure. But I think it's also here too. So yeah, we'd love to have you participate in our Women in Leadership program. Cynthia, I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
Well, I just talking a little bit about building it up, and really from a financial counseling point of view, or coaching. We like to really call it coaching these days, because coaching means it's a relationship, right? How many of you have played sports or had a coach, a speech coach, somebody, right? You know, their coach is always giving you feedback, and it's not like counseling seems so prescriptive. You know, left finger wagging, I'm going to counsel you or something. And so we really work on a coaching model, and I encourage all of you who have your financial education programs. It's great to train them in all the technicals, credit scores, budgeting, student loans especially. Yeah, that one especially. But if you're missing training them on empathy or active listening, you're missing it altogether, because they don't really care about a budget until they feel like you've heard them. They've been seen. They're human, you're human, we're working on this together. If you're an adult learner, and we all are, right? We bring a lot to the table. Don't assume they've never heard the word budget before or don't know the 5 factors of a credit score. Get to know them. Start where they're at. It's very easy to be condescending or consult.
Thank you.
You know, just looking down on people in a counseling situation. So as your folks are going through the FICEP program or Balances Money Coach or whatever you're getting them certified with, just make sure that you're pairing the soft skills with them, or your program's not going to be successful.
Also, please don't think that just because someone is low income or low wage, they don't know how to budget.
They know better than us.
They know better than everybody.
They do a better
It's
job.
insulting to say, let me budget with you. It's like, no, I just need a way to earn either more income or get less expensive services that the money that I have, I can use better.
Absolutely. The most expensive banking in America is for poor people.
Thank you.
They pay the most.
So one of the last things is, how do we get our boards at our credit unions to buy into this idea? And just very briefly, if you can maybe touch on this.
I can go really quick. I would say have them go to a DE workshop. If you haven't been to a DE workshop, the last one at GECU down there in El Paso, I'll tell you what, it'll change a board member's mind, because you're doing it, you're with the people, you're feeling it, you're having empathy. So get them in the field. That's my best advice.
And get them to DE training.
DE training, yes.
I'll say for my end, let's try and elect leaders who are willing to lead from the heart and not for any other reason. Thank you.
So board members are the most productive people in a credit union sometimes, and sometimes not. So I think actually providing the right training and opportunities, exposure is everything. Expose, expose, expose. Honestly, this is an investment into your SACCO, sorry, that's African, into your credit union. So for me, it's exposure.
Well, thank you very much. This was the last spin, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. The only final thing that I may add to the board members is we have some tremendous board members in this room right this second. And so with that in mind, make sure that you network with all of those. Those were on the panels, those that were part of conversations. Make sure you tap the board members that are here and ask how they may get more involved as well. So 2 things. We started the day in talking to Rafal, and he said, you cannot fight without ammunition. And then just now we heard that we cannot love, we cannot move forward, you cannot use a kaleidoscope without light. And I think that's a great way to bring it all out. So pull out your kaleidoscope if you still have it. If you stuffed it away, let's see them. It might be under your chair. There were some people in and out may have taken them. For those that have them, hold them up like this so we can get a photo of everybody with their kaleidoscopes. I love it. Oh, you got all the way around kaleidoscopes on this side. Here she comes. I want to say thank you so much to our sponsors, our panelists, our colleagues, our friends, our volunteers, and let's give a round of applause to the MSA team. And I'm turning it over here to Susan to close for the closing thoughts. No, don't use the kaleidoscope.
Okay, everybody, I know you're anxious and you've got a full week. We appreciate so much the fact that you start your week here. We believe in you. We love you. And I wanted to take a moment, if Kyle is still here. Oh, there he is. Kyle is from N2A. He's here joining us. He's been listening. He will be part of Undergrounds, but please feel free to reach out to him. Thank you, sir, for attending and being part of this. So a final thought here. Hope is not a strategy. We've talked about tough things, we've talked about positive things, but most importantly, we want to change the echo chamber to include credit unions and make that be our mission coming out of this meeting. So Zach has a couple of comments and we're out of here. Thank you all very much.
I promise to be quick, but first, I was going to say stop the spin, but we heard so many good things that just make sure your spin is authentic and for good, all right? We have a collective voice and a collective power to do some really good shit. So let's do it, all right? Before we go, we want to recognize our underground partners. If you saw them, they are growing. We are finding people who are passionate about what we're doing. So thank you to AACUC, Akuvo, Alchemy, AWS, Balance, BJSS, CU Strategic Planning, Engage FI, Mambu, Origins, PSCU and Co-op Solutions, Prodigy, Strategic Advisory, Talk Desk, Trellance, and TrueStage, helping us to make this all possible. And if you all have time, go do lunch, come back here. We're having the Stand-Up Summit powered by CU Pride with some amazing conversations surrounding what we need to do next about employee engagement and creating cultures and credit unions that bring the talent to us. All right? So we'll see you there. Thank